the record button on. There we go. Teaching assistants, yeah, that's a nice one, Jemana. Awarding bodies, yeah. Fantastic. These are all other professionals within the organisation that we might have to work with. Well, actually, Lauren, you've got one there, social services, which of course is outside of the organisation. And that's fine as well. We need to include them as well. Finance, bursary, the marketing department. Yeah, that's a good one, John. HR, human resources. Caretaking, yeah, nice one. Teachers, yeah, that's a nice one, Amal. I'll put that up there as well. Teacher colleague, yeah, nice one. I'll put that up there on this board. Then I can that's it. I can copy that board. Yes, that's probably the one that we actually work with the most, isn't it? Other colleagues, teachers, other teachers within our department or within other departments. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, that's great. So let's have a quick go along the line there. So I think most organizations of any reasonable size will have an IT support department. Harlow College have gone one extra than that. So we've almost got two IT support departments. We've got one department that supports the technical side of it, known as IT support, and then we've got another team called the digital team, which supports staff with the use of applications such as we're using here, such as Zoom and such as Nearpod, Kahoot, WordWall, Padlet, and all the other apps that we use. So we have a team of people who support teachers with using apps, the digital team. Social services, very often we'll have students or learners that are under the wing of social services, connected with support from social services. So we're working with them. They might have an education and healthcare plan. And so we'll need to work closely with social services in supporting a student or a young person through their learning program. Most colleges will, or most organizations will have a human resources department, excuse me, who we might have to work with on occasions. Admissions, John has put there now. Sort of admissions are a team that you will all have dealt with because you'll have gone through admissions in order to enroll on this course. So you'll have dealt with our admissions team, and they're responsible for initially putting people on the right courses, doing the enrollment paperwork. And if they get questions or queries from students, then they're passed on to teachers, and then we have to respond to those. Teaching assistants, Jemana said, and very often we'll have teaching support assistants within our classrooms, and it's really very, very critical to work closely with them so that we make sure they understand what it is we're trying to achieve as a teacher, what the aims and objectives are for the lesson, and how we expect that assistant to work with us in supporting the students in the class. Ben has said awarding bodies. Now that they go under lots of different titles potentially. They used to be called exam boards, then awarding bodies and awarding organisations. Lots of, amongst the many titles they get given. So we're talking about people like BTEC and City and Guilds, Pearson, RSA, and lots of other awarding organisations. Gateway is the one we're using for this particular qualification. John has said finance and bursary. So if we've got a student who needs financial support, perhaps with travel or with buying things for the course that they might need, then we might refer them to not an organisation, to a team within the college known as Bursary. And also, of course, to the finance department, who we might need to have contact with if we need to purchase anything for the course, any resources ourselves. Lucy's put finance as well. And again, if we need to buy things, if we buy materials for the course, we might have to go through finance in order to make the purchase orders. Marketing, that's a good one, John. So we might need to, our courses need to be advertised. So we need to work with the marketing team to make sure they've got the right information, start dates and things like that. HR, we've got there again from Adita. Caretaking is a nice one. Yeah, caretakers. So, if we need the room set up in a particular way, particularly for exams, perhaps, or an assessment, or if we need anything, a substantial piece of furniture moving, or something changing, cleaning to be done, or whatever it is, we will need to work with the caretakers of the property or the building. Catering is another nice one as well, isn't it? That's a good one we need to work with as well. And as Amal said, and probably the one that we most frequently work with are colleagues who are also teachers either in our same department as us or in another. So I'll do a little screenshot of that and I'll put that onto OneFile resources so that you've got a list of that you can refer to at a later stage. Great. Okay, I've got my own list here, but I think you've probably got it. Oh, I might have one or two. General administration. I've got caretakers we had, other teachers we had, managers, exam staff. So if we need to register students for exams, so that's one of the things I've had to register you all with Gateway to say that you're doing this qualification. And then when you complete successfully, I'll have to let exams know that you've completed and that you'll need a certificate. Social workers we had, learning support we had, bursary we had, quality. We've got a quality department and I'm in it. I'm one of the members of the quality team. So if teachers need support or help with any particular part of their teaching, they might come and talk to the quality team. Or if they need help with assessment, they might come and talk to members of the quality team. Unions, where there is a representative union staff, carers for students or learners that are under within the care system. We also have a safeguarding team at the college, so we would report to them if we were concerned about the safety or the welfare of a particular student that we might be worried about. HR we had, employers, particularly if you're dealing with apprenticeships or apprentices, you might need to be contacting and speaking with employers. Counsellors, you might refer students to that. Learning support we had, technicians, if there's not many around now. Days gone by, almost every department had a technician, but they're sort of few and far between now, technicians. But if you're teaching a practical subject and you want
still going strong, Gary.
Yeah, in a few areas. I think motor vehicles and engineering. I think in art as well. But they used to be everywhere. Like every department had. Engineering had 3 when I first joined, with 3 technicians.
I think catering's got a few.
Right. Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so if you anything that needs to be set up or fixed, maintained, we'd be working with the technicians. Careers, we've got a careers department within the college, so we might need to refer students to careers department if they need help with putting a CV together. And probation officers. So obviously, sometimes we have students that are on a probation system for one reason or another. So there's a slightly more comprehensive list there, but basically you've got all of the main ones and a few more beside there on that list. Okay, so that's good. So we've identified really how, well, we haven't actually said how it involves working with others, but I think we've got a good grasp on that from who you've picked up on that list. You can then go on to talk about how the teaching role involves working with those other professionals, at what stage you might be working with them. So that's all good support for us for 131. For 132, we now need to look at the boundaries, perhaps a little bit more challenging and perhaps not immediately obvious, but we'll have a go at it anyway. There's not a huge number of conditions under which there'll be boundaries, but there are some, and it is one of the criteria we need to look at. So explaining the boundaries between the teaching role and the other professional roles. So boundaries, limitations, I suppose, is another way of describing that. Where do we need to be careful not to overstep the mark, not go beyond what our role is as a teacher? So thinking about the boundaries. So let's just see what we come up with on there. We'll do another little collaborate board. Again, just list out as many as you can think of. What might be a boundary, a restriction, a limitation of what where we're working with another professional. Apologies for the typo on there as well. Oh, yep. Here we go then. Good stuff. Yeah, that's a nice one, Ben. I like that. Yeah, so it's a safeguarding issue. The boundary being that you're reporting it, you're not there to investigate it. I like that. That is a nice boundary. That's a classic example of a teacher boundary. You're just reporting what you've seen, heard, or witnessed. You're not the investigator. What was your thinking behind knowledge, Lucy?
I think I got confused on that one.
Okay.
When you're saying like what boundaries there between you and another professional,
Yeah.
like it's like a different skill.
Oh, okay. Yes, yes.
Maybe I should have put skill.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm with you. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, not teaching something that you don't have the knowledge or skills to deliver.
Yeah, like I couldn't go straight into hair and beauty and do a
I'm with you.
blow dry.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's an interesting point, actually. Yeah. Information sharing, nice one. That is, yeah, I like that. Information sharing. Classic example. The information that you share needs to be only the information that's required, nothing more and nothing less than the information that is required. Personal space, that's quite nice. I hadn't thought of it in that terms, Lauren. Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah, physical boundary. Yeah. Yes, personal information, John. That was the one that was probably top of my list when I saw the criteria. That I was thinking it's really the personal information of students. You know, there's some things you have to share, but students often tell us things that you know, it's not necessary to share with somebody else in order to do our job role. If we need to report something, as Ben says, we need to report it. But it's there are some things that students just want to share with their teacher. That isn't necessarily appropriate to share with anybody else. Language that's a nice one, Adita. Yeah, appropriate language. Task management, Joanna. Yeah, I like that one. So not taking over somebody else's role as well. I think they're probably for me. I think the top two boundaries is what information should and shouldn't be shared, and where I'm kind of starting to step on somebody else's shoes in terms of their role. You know, so giving advice, careers advice to a student when I'm not entirely certain about that. When we've got a careers team that I should be taking them over to see them, giving them advice about bursary, about finance, when with this, you know, that's somebody's role. And curriculum, Amal's got in there as well. It's another nice one. The boundaries of curriculum. Okay, so we've done quite well there. I'm quite pleased with that. I can't think of anything. I haven't got a list for this because my top two, I think, are not taking over somebody else's role. So another classic one for that would be, we talked about caretakers being a professional that we have to work with. You know, us not moving college resources and furniture around, getting the appropriate people to do that safely with the right moving equipment. I suppose our IT department, we talked about that as well, didn't we? You know, not interfering or trying to fix IT equipment, getting the IT department to do that. It's those boundaries again. But the top two, I think, are about not sharing information of students where it's not appropriate, and making sure you stay within what your role is. It's very the curriculum one and Lucy's knowledge, you know, sort of Lucy's, you know, in the engineering department, and saying, you know, I couldn't go into hair and beauty and start teaching that. It doesn't happen as much now as it used to. But one of the things that's in your contract is in all colleges, I believe, is that, you know, you can be called upon to cover a lesson in any topic anywhere within the organization, and I don't think, you know, people always appreciate that as much as oh, that's a nice one, Leanne, not sharing it. Yeah, that's very good, isn't it? Yeah, not sharing too much about your personal self with students. That's a nice one. For example, as I say, it's not as strict as it used to be, but when I first started working at the college, you had 22 hours you had to be in contact with students as a minimum every week, and if you were under that, you got loaned out to other departments. So I'm an electronics engineer, but for 2 years I taught photography 1 day a week, because there was a shortage of staff in photography, and there was too many staff in engineering. So although I know nothing about photography, I had to teach that subject for 2 years, and you kind of just have to read through the books and deliver it straight out of the book. I taught electrical installation for a year, and I taught motor vehicles for a short period of time, and I taught building and construction for a short period of time to cover a staff absence. You know, you get support from colleagues, but it's very uncomfortable teaching something that you really know nothing whatsoever about. It puts you in a very uncomfortable position, and hopefully it doesn't happen very often, and when it does, it doesn't last for too long. So sometimes you know, you just have to cover a class for another member of staff. But the point of being a qualified teacher is to say, oh, you're a teacher, you can teach anything. If you're a teacher, that means you can take knowledge from any source and re-deliver it out, which I'm not entirely sure that that's true, but that's how contracts in further education colleges and schools, I believe, as well, work. Okay, right, we'll take a screenshot of that again, because that's a great list there, and I think that was more than I was expecting to come up with as well. Nice work. Okay, then, so our last little bit here is we've had a look at how our role as teachers and trainers involves working with other professionals. We've had a look at some of the boundaries that we need to work within as a teacher. Now we'll go back to the first one again and explain the teaching role and responsibilities in education and training. And this is where I'll get you to do a little bit of group work. So we're going to fill in, for that criteria, we're going to fill in a table. It's a form in Microsoft Words. I've emailed it out to everybody, but it's also available on OneFile Resources, and I'll show you whereabouts it is. What we're doing, though, is to make the task a little bit easier, is we're breaking down the roles and responsibilities of a teacher into the 5 steps of the teaching cycle. So step 1 is about the teacher identifying the needs of the student. And so we have roles and responsibilities in identifying the needs. This is a relatively short course, but nonetheless, we did, I think with pretty much every one of you, I had some kind of a dialogue, an interview with you, or one of my colleagues did. And we either had an interview or face-to-face discussion, or a discussion over the phone about why you wanted to do this course, where it might lead, and whether this course was suitable for what your needs were. We talked about, if it was appropriate, we talked about any learning difficulties that you might have, and we talked about any support that you might need through the course and how that might be dealt with, and what it is you might need to do on the course. So that was kind of initial identification of needs up front. For longer courses, that can be very substantial. It can be looking at GCSE results, predicted grades, school reports, all kinds of things. Usually involve interviews with students and with parents very often if they're under the age of 19. So we try as best we can to identify what the needs of students are. And the whole purpose of that, of course, is to make sure that we put them on the right course at the right level. We have lots of different levels within the college. We've got entry-level courses, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. And we try to make sure we put them on the right subject at the right level. So that's one of the key roles of a teacher, is to do that. When we've got our students and we've identified what their needs are, we need to plan and design a course in order to meet those needs. And of course, we've got to satisfy the needs of the students and satisfy the needs of the awarding organisation, the curriculum, if you like, the content. We can't just teach whatever we want to teach. Very often we've got an exam board, an awarding organisation that will give us a syllabus that we need to teach to. And the main two words that we use in that, in terms of planning and design, are lesson plans, and the other thing you'll hear in schools and colleges a lot is a scheme of work, which is often abbreviated to an SOW, scheme of work. So a scheme of work is just a list of what we'll be doing on what weeks. If it's a 15-week course, there's a 15-week scheme of work, and it shows what we're going to do on week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And then a lesson plan is a much more detailed document about what we're actually going to do on that lesson. So we plan and we design, we think about what resources we need, we think about exam timetables, we think about how long have I got to teach these people, what do I need to achieve in that time, what activities can we do, what people are going to be teaching it. So we plan and design the course, and then we deliver it, we teach it. The biggest part and the main role of a teacher is teaching, is delivering the course. We assess our students against some sort of standard or criteria, or send them off to an exam if it's external. And then we sit and reflect and we evaluate, not the students. This is the key thing to note down here. Evaluate means evaluating ourselves and the course. How well did our students achieve on that course? How good was this course? What information can we gather to evaluate how well we've done on this course? That's the evaluate stage. So what we're going to do is we're going to break the roles and responsibilities of a teacher down into those 5 steps and think about what a teacher needs to do at each one of those 5 steps. Now, on one file resources, under level 3 award, unit 1, roles and responsibilities, task A, you'll see there's some supporting information down there that you're more than welcome to make reference to in this task that we've got coming up next. There's the ETF professional standards. There's a copy of those there. That's the Education Training Foundation. So they write a set of standards for teachers in further education and training. There's the document we need there, evidence 111 task A. We need that document open. I have emailed it to you, or you can pick it up from one file. And there's also a Harlow College job description there for a teacher. Our job descriptions at Harlow College are quite difficult to understand. So I've also put a job description there for a lecturer at Norwich City College as well, because that's a more traditional, easier to read job description from Norwich City College. And I've put a couple of links in there to websites that talk about the roles and responsibilities of teachers in further education. And lastly, this is what that Word document looks like. So you can see it's a Microsoft Word document, and it's got a table in there. The boxes, the cells that you type in will automatically expand as you type into them. So you can put in there as much as you need to, and the boxes will automatically expand to fit it. So we're going to do a little bit of group work now, and I'm going to have to change the groups around just a little bit as we're missing Rihanna. So just bear with me a second while I change that. Okay, right. So the idea was I was going to have 2 of you on each one of the 5, instead of which we will have we'll miss out the assess stage, I think. Yeah, we'll miss out the assess stage. Okay. So we've got, let me just stop the screen share for a moment. Actually, before I start anything else, having looked through that and looked through the criteria, do we have any questions about any aspect of that before I put you into your groups?
So just so I'm clear, between the groups, Gary, we need to fill in all the boxes that you said apart from assess, or?
No, what I'm going to do is, so let me know if I've missed anybody out, but I've set up the breakout rooms so that Lucy and John, you're just going to work on identifying needs only. So you're just going to do the top row. I just need to check the rooms again to see which one I've missed out. And then we've got Amal and Ben, you're going to look at planning and designing. And Adita and Jumana, you're going to look at deliver and facilitate. And Lauren and Leanne, you're going to look at evaluate. So what I want you to do in your pairs, I just realized we've lost somewhere along the line, we lost Maisha, haven't we? Thought I'd got 2 people. So we're 2 people down. That's all right. So we're still working in pairs.
Gary, can I just ask, with the with this, I'm looking at evaluating. Is it my roles and responsibility? My role to evaluate and my responsibility to evaluate, and
that's it.
Evaluating my work with other professionals and evaluating. Is that right?
You've absolutely got it. Yes. You've probably, that's out of the 5, I've probably given you the hardest one there, evaluate, because it's probably not as obvious as some of the others. So I'm going to work my way through all the rooms and see how everybody's doing. And I'll come to your room first to sort of give you a kickstart in the right direction, because I think that's probably the most challenging one. So we've left assess out. So we've got Lauren and Leanne on evaluate. That's it. And so I'd like you to start filling in the whole column. Now, the big question I suppose you might have to begin with is, what's the difference between a role and responsibility? I would say the role is very brief. So purpose, if you like, replace role with purpose. What's the purpose of a teacher when it comes to identifying needs? What's the purpose of a teacher when it comes to planning and designing? What's the purpose of a teacher to deliver and facilitate? What's the purpose of a teacher to evaluate? So that should be brief. That should be like no more than 2 to 3 lines, the role. And the responsibilities, then you can bullet point those into what sort of jobs might you be doing as a teacher when you identify needs, when you plan and design, when you deliver, when you, we're missing out, when we assess, we've missed out, and when you evaluate. And then you can work your way across the columns. So in those 5 steps of the teaching cycle, who else might I work with? What other professionals might I come into contact with on those 5 steps? And what might the boundaries be on those at those different stages? There might not be a boundary for every stage. So don't worry if you haven't got something in every column for the end one. But at the moment, you're only working on 1 row each. We'll say 20 minutes and see how you get on. And then I think we'll all come back together and you can share what you've done on your row, and you can send me the documents, or you can put the documents in chat so we can each have a copy of each other's work. Bear in mind, you know, obviously this has got to be your own work when it comes to the submission, but it'll help us, give us a little bit of direction to where we're going. The way I've explained that sounds very complicated. I'll come through to the rooms and give you a hand as well, but
Gary,
yes.
You said your own work, but we're working as 2 people. So what, do we work together on it, or
yes, I
talk
work
about
together.
it and put separate things, or we put the same things in as a pair?
Yeah, that's quite a challenging thing I've asked, isn't it? So what I want you to work as a pair and put the same thing to begin with, but on your final submission, just make sure that it's personal, you know, to what your own work. So just make sure it's, you know, a little bit different to. So I think what I would suggest is one of you in your pair share your screen, provided you've got that Word document. Put it up on the screen, and then as the 2 of you talk through it, one of you can be typing it in and filling it in. So that'll be one person's work. The other person can just make notes about what's been put on there and just put it in their own words. Does that sound okay?
See how it's going to come out.
As long as I mean, ultimately the roles and responsibilities of a teacher are pretty much the same. But what I need to avoid, obviously, is 10 pieces of work that look exactly the same. So hopefully what I'm trying to do here is create a nice lot of rich information that you can say, okay, yeah, I can see that. I'll, you know, that rings a bell with me. That resonates with me. I can put that in, and there should, in total, there should be a lot more information than you need, so you can kind of filter it down to what you think is the most relevant parts for you. He said, desperately trying to explain that.
So for now, we do 1 box, and then
Yeah.
later on, when we have to submit this, we filling out the identity needs and everything else. We do that ourselves.
Exactly right. Yeah. So
the other. Are we going to hear to other people what they?
Yes, we will. We'll get everybody to share everybody's work so that it gives us a flavour. I mean, you might well have your own ideas and think, oh, you know, that I wouldn't have put that. I'd have put this instead. So, you know, don't feel obliged that just because somebody else has put it, that you've got to put it as well. The same as, you know, when we look at those collaborate boards, there's lots and lots of ideas come on those collaborate boards. You don't have to put everything. You know, just a selection of what comes up on those boards is okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Fantastic. We'll see how it works out anyway. So the breakout rooms are all set up. What I'll do is I'll just stop the recording at this point because there's no value in a recording, just me sitting here looking at the camera. So we'll pause. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so let's go through that in order then. If Lucy or John, whoever was doing the typing, are you able to share a screen and just show us a little bit of what you did for identifying learner needs? Is the area that you were looking at. There we go, look at that.
We got a little bit confused between role and responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's normal. Yeah.
Yeah, we were getting a lot of, we were sort of getting a lot of ideas, but then we're like, so in the end we sort of chucked them in. We thought we'll chuck them in, we'll sort them out in the wash.
Yes,
we'll get the ideas down.
Right.
Get the ideas down first. So
Yeah.
so in terms of the roles,
yes.
We've got supporting individual students, and then I've tried to make, they haven't quite lined up. I've tried to make them line up as best as possible in the tables, but the things that
that's fine.
the responsibilities with that, and also interviewing learners, we thought it crossed over. So providing a learning plan, the different teaching methods for different students, rolls in with the initial assessments, and identifying those needs, but not just identifying those needs, but catering for those needs.
Right. Yes.
This is where I realised now my table is slightly gone awry, but interviewing learners and also following. So if you had a code of practice, code of conduct in the organisation, for example, like if you're ringing a learner to do an interview rather than in person, is the code of conduct that you use a work phone number or you hide your phone number?
Oh yeah.
That's that sort of thing.
Okay, perfect.
But also we thought identifying needs, not just for the student, but actually the teacher, because we're talking about someone doing something they haven't done before, or a new bit of equipment or something like that. So in terms of actually like CPD and training as well. So this year you've got this term coming up, you've got to teach about you've got to teach a new bit of machinery that you haven't used before.
Sure. Yeah, nice.
And professionals in terms of supporting individual students.
Yeah.
Professionals we would work with might be SEN staff and possibly safeguarding.
Yeah, could be, couldn't it? Yeah.
But in terms of interviewing the learners, admissions.
Yes.
And identifying the teachers' needs might be because in terms of like who would sort of some of these have got a little question mark because it's like I suppose depends on the organisation, like who you would have to go to get that approved, funded, etc. So would it be the department manager, HR? Would it be finance? So that's why there's sort of multiple. So whoever you would go to in your organisation.
Yeah.
Really,
yeah.
For those. And again, boundaries of working with other professionals. So again, we sort of made a few assumptions with this. So it's, for example, when you're interviewing these students and you're gonna, I don't know, you got like 100. How does it work at the college? Do you have like 100 students to interview? You're given 20 to do, another teacher's given 20 to, and then you're gonna have to come back together,
right,
and pull that knowledge, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because but then we thought another boundary, someone somewhere is setting your cap, like how many places have you got to offer. So again, you got this 100 students that are applying, you got 25 places. Someone somewhere is saying you can offer X number. But again, would that be the faculty manager? Would that be admissions? So it's just, someone is giving you that number. So we thought that's another boundary.
Nice.
And again, on the CPD side, again, there's going to be a finite budget for that training. Yeah. So again, just who in the organization, would it be the faculty manager? Would it be HR? It's going to be, but someone's going to be saying, you got £1,000 for training, you got 20p for training. There's going to be some figure in there. And so you go, oh, I need this training that's £10,000, and they go, oh no, sorry. So so whoever is setting that boundary, that's what you're gonna come up against.
Yeah, no, that's a nice one.
And I think just the main thing was we were just a bit woolly on what we're gonna place them under. There's some things we were looking at some of the links you had in the
in the
resources bit, and just So yeah, it was just where they sat really. That was the bit I thought. But I think rather than getting hung up on that, we thought we get the stuff down.
I think you're right. I think that's the right approach. Yeah, just thrash it all down and you can sort it out later. Yeah, absolutely. No, that looks absolutely perfect. That looks spot on. So if we can if we can share that whatever way. What I think I would say is, things like probably interviewing learners probably should be in responsibilities. If everybody in the group's got pen and paper to hand, I think for the role in identifying needs, I do like, that there's 3 main purposes of identifying needs for students, and that is to put them on the right course at the right level with the right level of support. So when students want to go on a course, for example, they might a college open evening, a student might come up with their parents and say, well, I'm interested in engineering, and we'd start talking to them about engineering, and they say, well, what sort of career are you looking for? And they say, oh, I want to go into architectural design. And they say, okay, you don't want mechanical engineering, you don't want electronic engineering, you want structural engineering, you want, maybe architecture and design. So then we would take that student and their parents over to our colleagues in the construction department and get them to talk to them. So, that's a classic example of we're trying to identify a student need. They've said engineering, we've dug down a bit deeper with an interview. We've found it's not the right course for them. So the other person we worked with was a colleague, another teacher in another department. We've referred them on to that. So we're making sure they're on the right course, and then looking at how well did they achieve at school, how well did they achieve at their previous college, wherever they did their training first. If they've got if we're in a training environment, we would say, I don't know, let's say we're gonna teach a nurse how to do I don't know, cannulation and venipuncture, and say, well, okay, well, have you done this training? You need to do that training before you do the next training. So we look, is this the right level for them? What is their role? Have we got the right level of the course? And have they got any disabilities or learning difficulties that might need some additional support? And we need to put that in place as well. So in terms of identifying needs, the key thing is the right course, the right level, and the right level of support. Everything else you've got down there is absolutely spot on. So I think those are the key things to focus on in terms of the roles. Nice. Okay. Right. What we could try doing, we've never tried doing this before. If you want to have a go at doing it, I think you can put a document into chat. I think you can paste the document into the chat within Zoom, and we can all pick it up from there. If you want to have a go at that, cutting edge stuff, I've never tried that before, but I think it works. You can have a go at that. If not, just email it to me, and I'll put it on OneFile Resources so we can share it from there. Okay, so lovely. Thanks very much, Lucy and John. So can we then go to Amal and Ben, who were looking at planning and designing?
Yeah, so I think I've just put my screen up for you guys to see.
You have indeed.
Okay, so kind of the core role we thought the teachers for planning design facilitates learners' progress towards the qualifications through the effective use of the resources available. So that's everything from money, time, to physical resources, teaching resources, and human resources. I think that we thought that just nicely summarised everything that we needed to do for that. Moving on to the responsibilities, so identifying the success criteria from the awarding body. So is it coursework based? Are they going to have to do practical tasks? Are there exams at the end? Just kind of making sure that everything we're doing with them is going to actually be useful for them to pass the course, and we're not wasting their time doing anything that's not relevant. Completing planning documents, so the schemes of work and the lesson plans. Obviously that then means if you do need to be covered, someone can come walk into your lesson and pick up where you left off, or if you get moved off to another team, it doesn't just stop halfway through the year.
Perfect.
Ensuring the course is correctly resourced. So again, time, people, money, physical allocation of resources, bits of equipment, exam halls, for example, if you need to do exams, all those kind of things. Ensuring students are qualified to start the course, basically carrying on from what Gary was saying. If you're running a course that's of a higher level, and you're having students join who don't have the correct qualifications, then obviously they might struggle or not be able to complete the course. Ensuring that the course meets the legal requirements and standards. So as we said already, that if it's government funded, include British values in the course at some point.
Oh, yeah, good one.
And then the bottom one's it fulfills the organisation's aims and objectives. So for example, at Stack, if we do mainly aviation courses, but if someone tried to put in a hair and beauty course, you'd kind of question why that was happening at Stack rather than at the Harlow campus. People we worked with, so the awarding bodies, obviously they will set how people will be successful, exams, coursework, all those kind of good things. SEN department, so making sure our course is accessible to anyone, how we build it in and differentiate. Building resource management kind of speaks for itself. Teachers and academic colleagues, and by academic colleagues, we're talking about teaching assistants, LSA or learning support assistants, exam invigilators, anyone who's going to actually directly affect the students academically or help them to get the qualifications. Supposed to be Ofsted, not Ofsted. I know that's big at the moment. Just making sure that the course is relevant and will pass all those boxes. HR, making sure you've got the right teachers, right qualified people teaching it.
Okay, yeah.
Admissions, speaks for itself. Administration, so making sure that the people are entered for the right exams and what have you. Employment advisors, if it's relevant, so to get them to where they need to be at the end of the course. Finance, obviously everything revolves around money, so making sure that we're not spending over budget or under budget with kind of being effective. And senior management to make sure that their goals are being achieved. And then boundaries, so I put mission creep with other courses, or we've put mission creep with other courses. So again, you're not straying into someone else's course or taking value away from what someone else is doing. Vertical management of the qualification. So what we meant by that was, if you're a teacher that's been asked to design a course and you've got teachers below you, not micromanaging them to the point where you're writing all their lesson plans, but at the same point, if you're being told to manage one course and you start managing all the other courses in your department, you've then taken the person above you's job. Resource allocation and movement, so not stealing anyone else's resources within the college, ensuring that you're using what you've been given effectively. Exams office and IQA, so obviously if you've got students with special educational needs, you saying to the exams department, I think such and such needs extra time, not dictating to them saying this person definitely needs extra time. An IQA, when they've come in and said, oh, you could do this better, you're not turning around to them and saying, no, actually, that's perfectly fine. SEN department admissions at the bottom, again, just dictating to them how and who you have on your course and under what qualifications, letting them have some input into the whole discussion.
That's it. Yeah, brilliant. I like it. Nice. Yep, cool. Perfect. Plan and design. Very nice. Well done.
Thank you. I'll stop my sharing.
Lovely. Okay, that's smashing. Thank you, Amal and Ben. I can't remember who I gave deliver and facilitate to now. It's Adita and Jemana, wasn't it? Yeah. Does one of you like to talk us through what your findings were?
Yeah, hi everyone. So me and Adita decided to have two sections. The first section I will speak about the roles and responsibilities, and Adita will complete. Okay. Can you hear me?
We can, yes, coming through loud and clear. I can see your screen. Yeah.
So, in the first place, you need to know the needs and goals of the students you're having, and you need to know the fact that everyone in the class must have the full benefits of the class and this session in general. You should use effective methods to achieve your goals. So for the rules,
good point.
we have chosen that you have to ensure that everyone in the class have the opportunity to understand and practice or participate in the session or in the class. So how this will come by using different methods like PowerPoint, like Nearpod, exams, tests, and games. All these things will make you achieve your goal. And for the responsibilities, we have many responsibilities. First of all, you have to use easy and understandable language, visuals, and equipments. As we have mentioned, your voice will matter.
Right.
The note of your voice, the visuals you are using, if it's easy for everyone to understand or to use or to enroll, and the equipments, it might not be technology, it might be in
Sure.
classroom, yes. And you have to make sure to share understanding and expectations by doing assignments and groups. And like this, we have had groups, and we have shared our experiments, we have shared our opinions and everything.
Sure.
And you need to support learners like you, Gary, doing, supporting everyone and letting them achieve their goals.
Doing my best, Jemone.
And then my colleague Adita will.
Yes, we decide to share it.
Okay.
So when it comes to delivery, again, what other professionals do you work with? It's the IT support. Going back to what we said, is the visuals and equipment that we use, because it's our responsibility to actually, check that everything is working, that everything is fine. The teaching assistants as well. If we work with someone, to make sure they know what the lesson we're going to do, what the program we're going to do, how we want to present it, so they don't feel like they, again, don't overstep the boundaries. Do they help enough? Do they support? Do you get what you need from them, so you can work nicely together? Social services, caretakers as well, within a classroom, and this is with the learning support, so it kind of lays, because with the SEN and EHC plans that may be taken in within a classroom, obviously they're going to be extra people additional, because we are not the one who's going to teach them. They have, because the educational healthcare plan, they have their own special people that they work one-on-one. So obviously within that, we need to give them the material that we're going to use. We have to communicate with them well enough for everyone to know what's going on in the classroom. When it comes to the boundaries of working with other professionals, it's going to be safeguarding, because obviously we will, if we decide to use anything from internet to, online, to the classroom, to the equipment, within any, as a college yourself, you're doing more practical, more skill work. So obviously this is very important, safeguarding, health and safety, again, appropriate language. So we, it depends with the students' background and everything. Sometimes we may assume that people do understand what we're saying, because we use very proper English and using the words that within the meaning. Sometimes use the simple language as well, to make sure everyone is on the same page. And a task management as well, that's quite important as well. So we keep up within the time limits, within the things that we need to follow within the whole program. That's it.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love it. The role is quite powerful there, sort of ensuring that all have the ability to understand and participate. That's that's the core of your equal opportunities in there, that everybody has that access to learning in there. And I love the they're working with the teaching assistants and they're supporting the students with their education and healthcare plans. It's one of the biggest criticisms I have when in my role as a quality person at the college, when I observe lessons where you've got teaching support staff in the room, and you can see there really hasn't been any communication between the teacher and the learning support person. The learning support person knows all about their learner and how to support them, but they didn't really understand what the teacher is trying to achieve. There hasn't been that level of communication. Lesson plans haven't been shared. There hasn't been a discussion about what's going to happen in the lesson and what the teacher needs the learning support assistant to do. There's really some really nice stuff in there. Yeah, brilliant. Love that. Thank you very much. Well done, both of you. So what I thought I would do is to keep it in the same order, is I will do assess. So I'll just share my screen and talk through what I've done on assess. That's sharing okay? Excellent. Okay. So again, you can personalize this a lot. So I've put under the role, I've put two things. You could just put one or both, depending on what you think your role will be in the role as a trainer or as a role of a teacher. So I've put to formatively assess learners and to support their progress. So formative assessment is sort of a kind of assessment along the way, and this is what I'm doing now. This isn't your final assessment. This is the work that we're doing along the way, where you're beginning to construct your assignments. You're having a go. It's your initial work towards your final task. You're doing that, and hopefully I'm doing my best to support you in doing that. So formatively assessing learners to make sure you're progressing. And then summative assessment for learners ready for certification, so you get your qualification. Now, I think everybody would formatively assess learners, but not all of us summatively assess learners. And by that, I mean, some of the courses that we teach, there's an external exam for it. So we don't get involved in summative assessment at all. So that might be relative to you, and it might not. So for example, if you're teaching an A-level or a BTEC where there's an exam, or if you're teaching GCSE English, GCSE Spanish, then there would be an external exam for that, and you as the teacher wouldn't do the summative part of it, you would just do the formative part of it only. I've put both down there, so you've just got to get a feel for it. So if I'm going to formatively assess students, I need to set formative assessment tasks, and what we're doing now is a formative assessment task. So I'm providing you, hopefully, with constructive feedback to give you praise for where you've achieved, and some constructive feedback on where you can improve. I need to make sure that I stay within the awarding organisation guidelines. So Gateway, how we need to deliver and assess this course. I need to make sure that I do that. And of course, the college have got guidelines as well on formative and summative assessment. I should track this progress. Fortunately, I think OneFile does a lot of that for me. If somebody was paying for your course for you, I might have to report to them. So if your employer is paying for you to do this course, then I might well have to sort of report to them to let them know how you're progressing if they're paying for you to do it. And I might have to sort out any difficulties or issues anything that might affect you progressing towards your end goal. So that's my role and my responsibilities in assess. The people I might have to work with, the exams office, if I got to plan anything with exams, or if I've got to register you, which I've had to register you all with the awarding organisation, and then when you've completed, I'll have to communicate with exams to request certificates from our exams department. I need to communicate with the awarding organisation, so I need to make sure that Gateway know that you're on the course. I have to work with their EQA. I should have put that right down the bottom here. There's that one there, working with external quality assurance. So that's for us, that's Janet Ravensdale. She's our EQA. She works for Gateway, and she will check the work that I do and the work that Louise does. So I do your assessments, Louise checks my work, She works for Harlow College, so that's the internal verifier or internal quality assurance, whichever word you prefer. IV, IQA, they're the same thing. Internal verifier, internal quality assurance. It means the same thing. Some people call the external quality assurance the EV, external verifier. Those phrases are interchangeable. So I need to make sure Louise knows that you're all on the course, and so she can check my work as I carry out assessments. If anybody needed learning support, I would have to speak with them and work with them to get support in place. If I needed anything set up, rooms sorted out, then campus operations, our caretakers would do that. So those are the other professionals that I might have to work with. My boundaries, not assessing outside the marking scheme and the specification. So for your video logs that you're doing, for the task that we looked at last week, I might say, yeah, the content of your video log was fine and you've passed that, but I really didn't like the way you presented that to camera. Well, that's not within the marking scheme, so I shouldn't be giving you feedback on that. I shouldn't be marking it. I'm marking something that's not a requirement of the course. So not marking outside the specification would be a boundary. Making sure I stick within the rules and the regulations set out by the awarding body and the awarding organisation. Amount of time that I give you, any restrictions or resources. Not misinterpreting the work that you do. So making sure that I'm clear on what it was that you said and asking for clarification if I need it. Not passing anybody who doesn't meet the criteria. That's a very serious boundary to make sure I don't pass anybody who hasn't met the criteria. And where I need to share information with other professionals, only sharing what's necessary, what's essential. And again, I'll put this onto one file as the example for assess. I might be able to put it into chat as well. I can see that a couple of you have put that into chat. I can see Ben has shared his document in chat and John has shared his document in chat. You should be able to go into chat and download those documents. Try that, and I'll put this one into chat when we have our break. Okay, so I'll stop the share now. So that's assess. We're running well into our break time now, but we'll keep the flow going as we're on the move. So that just leaves Lauren and Leanne now with evaluate. How did we go with evaluate?
Yeah,
Hello.
not bad. Hang on a second.
Yeah, sure.
There we go. Right, lovely. Can everyone see that?
It's there. Yep, there it goes. We've got it.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so evaluate, as we know, we're actually evaluating ourselves and the course. So roles to assess the course achievements and its effectiveness of the course, look at how the course worked, where to improve it and how we would do it differently. Responsibilities, obviously based on the feedback we get from our students and etc., to improve and update our course, improve our teaching skills and learning, keep up to date with teaching skills and theory. What other professionals would we work with? Well, our managers, examiners, colleagues, resources, financing, admissions and career advisors and marketing to try and improve our course if necessary. And boundaries. So obviously we've got to ensure the best quality of the student, best learning outcomes and value for money. But obviously boundaries we might come across obviously are budgeting.
That's a good one. I like it.
Budgeting, yeah. Equipment, and staffing as well. So that's obviously sickness and things like that, or lack of, or people leave. You might not be able to fulfill the entirety of the course. And that's it.
Yeah, superb. I love it.
Lovely.
Yeah, great.
I can't see those other ones in chat, so I'll try and share this in chat.
All right. I'll download them all anyway, or if you can email, if everybody can just email them to me, that might be the easiest way. Sometimes cutting edge is too cutting edge sometimes, isn't it? So Perhaps if everybody can email them to me as well, and I'll put them all on one file so everybody can share. Okay, that's fabulous. I love working with this group. You produce such good quality work. You know, you're making me look really good, which is great. I love that. Yeah, so some superb answers in there. You just want to bring all that together, put it in your own words, complete that document, and that will be Unit 1, Task A. That'll be completed. So we'll have a break now because you've been working really hard. We're in overtime now because we're nearly sort of 7:15. Any queries or questions coming up about that? Provided I share all of those documents, get them all on one file so you can kind of get a flavour for what you should be putting in there. Are we happy now that we've got everything that we need to successfully complete Unit 1 Task A? Yeah, okay. Fantastic. All right. Well, I'll put the clock up for anybody that's got headphones on. I won't put the bell on this time, so this is to save your ears. We'll have a 15-minute break. We'll get some refreshments, have a comfort break, and we should have time, hopefully, to have a quick look at Unit 1 Task B. Lovely. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated. Well done. Start the recording again. There we go. And I better share the screen again as well, hadn't I? There we go. So that's just for the benefit of the recording. You can follow along on your own Nearpod screens. So for Unit 1 Task B then, this is all about legislation, regulation and codes of practice. So for this one, it's another Microsoft Word table. And I've emailed it out to everybody, but you can also find it in OneFile Resources under Unit 1 Task B. Only 2 columns to this one. And this is about how legislation, regulation, and codes of practice impact upon what we do as teachers in a classroom. Okay, we won't do this in pairs, we'll do it as a group. So this might be a little bit more challenging, but you seem to always rise to every challenge that I've given you so far. So we'll go straight into a collaboration board without any other information. Just have a think about what kind of legislation, regulations, and codes of practice might impact on your work in a teaching and training environment. Now, you could think about, let's say you teach electrical installation, then legislation that might impact upon you might be something like the 19th edition wiring regulations. Well, that's actually regulations rather than legislation. For Ben, CAA regulations might affect what he teaches in the classroom. If you're teaching hair and beauty, then regulations around the use of chemicals might well impact upon you in the classroom. So you can think about what might impact upon teaching of my subject. For some of you, if you're teaching A-level philosophy, then there's probably nothing that's particular to a subject, but for some of us there will be. We talked about awarding organisations, and I think you all nicely identified that there are codes of practice and regulations from awarding organisations. So, of course, they'll need to be in there somewhere. But what else might affect us when thinking about, so perhaps equality that we talked about last week, and creating a safe and supportive environment and how we do that. So let's just throw up a, that's not supposed to happen. We're supposed to have a collaboration board in here. Can I do that? Can I throw one in? Can I add an activity on the go? Does anybody know Nearpod well enough to know whether I can do that?
Could you just do a whiteboard on Zoom?
That's true. I could do I think I can do a whiteboard on Nearpod. Let's try that. Let's see if that works. I've not done this before. This is a whiteboard within Zoom, you might need to move your, I need to share this with you, don't I? So it's unlocked, so you should be able to write on that. I can't see how to write on it at my end. Oh, annotate. Oh, yeah. Okay. Annotate. All right. Can everybody see that? I'll just put hello on there. In order to put that on there, I had to.
I can't see anything.
No. Okay. This might not work. This might not work. It's unlocked. I don't know what other settings I've got on here. Maybe we'll try the whiteboard in Zoom, as you say, John. Might be a safer option. Right. Okay. Let's stop my screen share there for a minute and launch the whiteboard in Zoom. Let's have a new whiteboard. Okay, so if you leave your Nearpod screen just for a second and come back to Zoom and see if you can enter some text on the screen there. Hopefully down one side, oh, there we go. Somebody's got some text. You should have a little menu down one side of your screen. Oh, there we go, look. And there should be a letter T on there, which is for text. So you can click on that and type in some text on the whiteboard. There we go. Absence of planning and a bit of creativity thrown in. There we go. So there's some lovely things coming up there straight away. Keeping children safe in education. That's an act. That's a piece of legislation. There we go. Computer Misuse Act 1990. That's a piece of legislation. The Prevent Strategy. That's I think that's regulations that's coming out of a piece of legislation. Code of
Sorry,
practice.
Gary, I can't write anything. Can I? If I put it in chat, could you put it on the board for me?
Yes,
Is that all right?
yes, yeah, that's fine. Yep, yeah. If anybody can't write for any reason, pop it into chat, and I'll copy and paste it and put it onto the whiteboard. And I can save the whiteboard as well. So, okay, here we go. We've got some stuff coming through now. There we go. Great answers there. Okay, fantastic. Great stuff. Might have to scroll up and down a little bit just to see them all. They should all be there. Yeah, that's a nice set. There we go. So that's a really good start. We've got the Keeping Children Safe in Education. That's legislation. The teacher standards, which we've got there, and here again, the Society of Education Training. You know, so I keep mentioning the ETF, the Education Training Foundation. The Society for Education Training, that's the membership part of the ETF. So if you wanted to join the ETF, Education Training Foundation, you would become a member of the Society for Education Training. So they're kind of one and the same organization, really. And they have a set of guidelines of professional standards for teachers in further education and training. We've got the PREVENT strategy there. Health and Professions Order 2011 HCPC Standards of Training. That's a new one on me. Don't know that one. That's a great one. That's a new one to me.
Yeah, I until I googled it on the HCPC website, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, they've got their own standards as well. So yeah,
right,
it's new to me too.
Right, okay, yeah, that's a good one to have in there though. Superb. We've got the Equality Act. We've got a whole load here. The Equality Act, that's a piece of legislation. Ofsted, there's a sort of set of guidelines. The Human Rights Act, because that's another piece of legislation. Computer Misuse Act, that's legislation. COSH, what is that? COSH, is that regulations, I suppose, isn't it? I suppose there's a set of regulations. Okay, there's another one here from Jemana. Put that on here. There we go. That's a nice one because that one's specific to a subject. So that's a classic where you need to know about a set of standards or guidelines in order to teach your subject. So that's a nice one that's subject related. So for some of us, that we have a set of standards or a set of regulations that relate to the subject that we teach, and that's a really nice example of that. There's one really, really obvious one, I think, that applies to every single one of us that's missing off that screen. What do we think that might be?
Is it health and safety?
Yeah, the Health and Safety at Work Act. Yep, that's it, Adita, well done. Yeah. Yeah, shall I put that on there? I think it's called, what is it? It's HASWA, isn't it? Health and Safety at Work Act. That's it. HASWA, Health and Safety at Work Act. So that applies to every single one of us, even if we're teaching just a theory subject, to make sure the classroom's safe, no trip hazards, that anything electrical has been PAT tested.
Would that go under regulatory? Is that
yeah, that would be legislation, because anything that's got the word act at the end of it is a piece of government legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if it's act, like the Computer Misuse Act, that means it's been through Parliament essentially, or in the case of the Human Rights Act, I think it's been through the I don't know whether that was a European Court of Human Rights where that came from. Yeah, this is good. This is excellent stuff. As you know, nothing less than I would expect from this group, really. Let's save that. There we go. So I've got a copy of that. And I think I can share it. Can I share it? I can share it on the white, share it in chat. How else can I share it? Copy a link. Okay, we'll copy a link. And I'll take a print of it as well, just to make sure we've got that. And I'll put that onto good old OneFile resources. So we've got that as well. Okay, lovely. Thanks for the suggestion, John. That works nicely. Okay, so I'll close the white.
It wasn't me. I can't take
credit. Oh, was it? Oh, wasn't it? Or was it Ben? Was it? Oh, it was a male voice came through there.
Yeah, it was me.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Okay, so as I say, I'll share that, make sure everybody's got a copy of it. I'll close that down, and then we'll switch back now to our Nearpod. Close the whiteboard on there. That didn't work that well. I've put a little list. Oh, I need to share the screen for the recording again. It's all going on, isn't it? It's all sharing. Right, share that. There we go. So yeah, I guess as the screen's sharing now, there's no more collaboration boards. You can stay in Zoom or go back to your Nearpod, whichever one you prefer. Oh, okay. Oh, lovely. Thanks, thanks, John, sharing the whiteboard there. Well done. Excellent. Okay. I can download that, can't I? There we go. I'll put it in that file and share it with the others as well. Lovely. Well, I've just got some examples there, some of which you've got, and some additional ones in there. Equality Act 2010. I think I'll be right in saying that impacts on all of us. Every time we teach anything, we need to think about ensuring equality and inclusion. We need to make sure that whatever it is that we are teaching, through whatever resource, through whatever medium we're delivering it, we need to make sure that everybody has an equality of access to the resources, to the materials. I mean, exactly what Jemana and Adita you put in your table, that everybody needs to have equality of access to the resources, to understanding, and to the materials, and that's really what the Equality Act says, that we need to adapt and make suitable changes, reasonable changes, to enable everybody to have access. On top of that, we really should be making sure that when we deliver any training, we are making everybody feel included and valued, that people can identify with the materials, that they feel recognized and valued as a part of the group. So we're not excluding people for any reason. I think there are 9 protected qualities in the Equality Act that we need to consider. So that impacts anybody who delivers any training or teaching. I think it would be difficult for you not to include the 2010 Equality Act in this list of legislation and regulations. There's the Counter-Terrorism and Security Act 2015, and you think, well, that's a bit of an odd one to put in there. That because it's got the word act, that's a piece of legislation, and really it doesn't affect us very much at all, other than the fact that the prevent strategy came out of that. So the prevent strategy is a code of practice, and this will affect you if you work in healthcare. It will, as my wife is a nurse, she's had to have prevent training. We have to have prevent training here at the college. I think the police have to have prevent training. Social services probably have to have prevent training. And it's about us identifying people, particularly young people, who might be at risk of radicalization, or who might be used by others, indoctrinated for the use of terrorist acts. So the Counter-Terrorism and Security Act might not affect us directly. That's a piece of legislation, but the code of practice under prevent, that does impact on us. If we're working for a government-funded organisation and we're teaching on government-funded courses, if you're delivering commercial training in a workplace, then it probably doesn't have any impact on you, and you needn't necessarily include that. So I think any government-funded work that you do with the prevent code of practice would impact upon you, and that's about identifying people who are at risk of being indoctrinated into doing something for somebody else's purposes. GDPR used to be kind of the Data Protection Act. GDPR regulations, and I've completely forgotten what that stands for, what the initials stand for. Does anybody know?
I think it's literally General Data Protection Regulation.
Brilliant. I think you're right there, John. Yeah, that sounds good. Seems to work, doesn't it? So that is about keeping people's personal data safe. That affects us all. If we're teaching or training anything, we'll hold the personal details of our trainees, of our students. We'll probably have their phone number. We'll probably have their email address. We might well have their address. We might well have personal details about them as well, their age, their date of birth, inside leg measurement, all of those kind of things. We might hold information about people, and we need to make sure that that's kept safe and secure. So if we've got it electronically, we need to make sure that anything that we've got it on electronically is password protected. And if we've got it on a piece of paper, then we need to make sure that that's kept safely under lock and key, so that it's not accessible to other people, that other people can't access other people's personal information. Like, a simple example is when I email you, when I send you all out an email, I use the BCC, the blind copy box on Outlook to send out emails to you all, so that you can't see each other's email address. And so that is me using, adhering to GDPR regulations. We're all in the same WhatsApp group together. That's by mutual agreement, and anybody has the right to withdraw from that at any time. HASWA, Health and Safety at Work Act, because it's got the word act at the end of it, that's legislation, affects us all, affects some of us more than others. If you're teaching motor vehicles, I think that's probably the most dangerous course that we have. You've got young people, young and inexperienced people, jacking up motor vehicles, working underneath a jacked vehicle, working with lots of tools. So I think probably engineering is another one, where we're working with the rotating machines that Lucy taught us about on her microteach, a turning machine. Obviously there we've got danger of getting clothing and hair, jewellery or anything else caught in the machinery. We're working with sharp tools in engineering as well. And of course the same probably in carpentry and joinery, working with sharp tools again. Electrical, working with electricity. Hair and beauty, you're working with some quite dangerous chemicals with hair and beauty as well. There's the danger, the risk of causing harm to a client or to yourself with hair and beauty. Any of the practical subjects really where there are chemicals involved, Health and Safety at Work Act is particularly relevant. But even if you're just teaching a theory class, say you're teaching English as a foreign language, you're teaching a foreign language in a classroom, just making sure that the classroom is safe, safe from trip hazards, that the furniture is in a safe condition to use, that everybody knows the emergency evacuation procedures for the building that they're in. So health and safety, I think that one would be one, again, that probably everybody needs to include. This one's an odd one. I don't suppose anybody knows this or have heard of them. It affects us if we're teaching a government-funded course, but really, I don't mind if you don't include this, because the regulations are kind of all taken care of on our behalf. ESFA is the Education and Skills Funding Agency, and that's a government agency that pays for all government funded courses, and they have a set of regulations that we have to follow, but generally we have administration teams that look after that for us. They're known as the MIS team, Management Information Service. Because the ESFA, they tell us what courses we can run, what courses we can't run, how much money we get for them, and how we get paid. and we have to follow a whole set of guidelines in order to make sure we get our monthly payment coming in at the college. But teachers aren't, that doesn't really affect a teacher, to be fair. It's a big, it's very important for a college, but it doesn't really affect teachers on a day-to-day basis or in their classrooms, because somebody's worked out what courses we need to teach and how we need to teach them. So I'll include it because it is important, but I wouldn't expect you necessarily to put that down because it doesn't really affect our classroom practice. ETF standards, I think a couple of people got that on the whiteboard, also known as the Society for Education and Training, SET. And I've put their codes of practice. I think I've put it on one file, so they're already on there. That'd be a good one to include. Also, the ones that Lauren put up there as well, in actual fact, are, relate more to the work that Lauren does. If you're teaching a qualification, there will be a set of awarding organisation instructions, which will be like a code of practice. I've put BTEC up there, but it could be any awarding organisation. Every awarding organisation has a set of rules that usually runs into hundreds of pages on how to run their qualifications, and that would be a code of practice. The Children's Act is a piece of legislation, and I noticed somebody had put keeping children safe in education, and that is, I haven't listed it here, but that's a set of regulations that have come out of the Children's Act. And of course, a child is considered to be everything up until their 19th birthday, or a vulnerable adult as well. So that might be an adult with learning difficulties. So there's the Children's Act, that's legislation. Keeping children safe in education is a set of guidelines or regulations that have come out of the Children's Act, and that's about us making sure that we think, that we need to report it to our safeguarding team, which is another code of practice that comes out of the Children's Act. So we need to report and act upon any situation where we think a child or a vulnerable adult is not safe, and that might be they're being bullied, it might be that they're being abused sexually, physically, it might mean that they're in an unsafe environment, it might mean that they've been made homeless, it might mean that they're on the streets, it might mean that they're taking drugs, it might mean that they're being groomed to do county lines, drug running. So all of these things that we would need to report if we felt that a young person, a child, anybody under the age of 19 or a vulnerable adult was in that situation. The staff.
Sorry,
go on. Yeah.
So with with keeping children safe in education, there's where it comes from the Children's Act. Is that it's more sort of steps, isn't it? It's more like what to look out for. Like if you see this, tell this, report it to where. What was the word for that again? Keeping
children safe in education.
But what is that? That's like a. That's what is it though? It's instructional, isn't it?
It's a set of guidelines.
Guidelines. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's
right.
I
just couldn't. The word just wouldn't come. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. It's a set of guidelines essentially. Yeah. It's steps, as you say, steps to take. Yeah, and I think then if it comes to the attention of the safeguarding team, the safeguarding is really a code of practice that should be followed to act upon a safeguarding issue. If you work in healthcare, again, my wife is a nurse, is an NHS nurse. She has to do safeguarding training as well. For the same reasons that we do. Obviously, they're working with patients, members of the public, where they can report if they feel a child isn't safe in their environment for some reason. The staff code of conduct is the only one that I've got down there that is a code of practice that is relevant to Harlow College. I have put it onto one file. It's not secret, so anybody can see it. And I've actually put quite a lot of Harlow College Codes of Practice onto one file. If you have a look in Unit 1 Task B, you'll see there's a thing in there called a zip file. If you're not familiar or have not used a zip file before, if you download it and then open it, you'll find that there's about 7 or 8 other files within it. And all of those files are extracts from Harlow College's internal policies for staff. So the code of practice for Harlow College staff, if you don't work for Harlow College, you can still use that if you want. It's an example because it's about, this is about what codes of practice might affect teachers. So feel free to have a look at the ones. I can't recall off the top of my head what's in there. We'll have a look in a second. So that's kind of a local one. If you're working as a trainer, you might want to quote the ones that your organisation has in terms of codes of practice that apply to you in your work situation. And then the last one is a really big one. It's a global one, of course, isn't it? The Human Rights Act is a global act that applies to really how humans should be treated, fair treatment. There are things in there that writes that people should, they have the right to feel safe and free from abuse and free from physical harm. So all of those things would be in the Human Rights Act. You might think about how they impact upon your classroom practice. We'll have a look in a second as to what I've got in the in terms of Harlow College's legislation. Yeah, that's where you'll find it all. Level 3 award, Unit 1, roles and responsibilities, Task B, legislation. So the document that you need is there. I have emailed it out as well, but it's Evidence 112 Task B. I think supporting materials is just a copy of this PowerPoint. And organisational guidelines, I've just put 7 or 8 of Harlow College's policies on there. You might even be able to find them on our website. I'm not sure if we've made them that public, but they're certainly not secret. So you can make reference to those if you want to, as examples. And this is what the form looks like. We've only got 2 columns this time. And I would suggest you need to think about, I think let's cover 6. I think that would be reasonable. So in the left-hand column, you need to put down the name. It's important, make sure you get the right name. It's the name of the piece of legislation, the name of the regulation, or the name of the code of practice. So make sure you get the name of it right there. You don't have to provide a description of it, just get the name of it in the left-hand column.
Can we use the one from your list as well? And the one.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And we do not follow the information of the 3 pieces of regulatory and then code of practice.
I would suggest, crikey, you're quick at reading that, Adita. Yeah, I would suggest give 6 in total.
6 in total. Okay.
And make sure that you cover at least 1 piece of legislation, at least 1 set of regulations, and at least 1 code of practice. So we've got the range covered. But mix it up however you want, and I would suggest 6 pieces in total, I think would be right for that.
Once we've done that, Gary, will that be an assignment we'll do on one file?
Yes, that's a whole assignment. So this is the whole of Task B.
Cool.
Just 1 criteria. So this one isn't too bad. The key thing is on the right-hand side, in the right-hand column, don't describe the act or what the requirements of the act are. Think about, If you were teaching in a classroom, what impact would that have? So, for example, if you put the Health and Safety at Work Act, what is it that you teach? If you teach motor vehicles, if you're teaching car mechanics, then you could talk an awful lot about making sure that students are suitably trained and signed off on pieces of equipment before they're allowed to use them. You should make sure there's adequate supervision in the workshop, that things are checked before students work on them. Those kind of things would be, you know, how that would impact on the work that you do in the classroom. If you teach, if you're teaching a foreign language, then it might be that checking that the furniture is safe in the classroom. It might be that checking that you know, the computer and maybe your students are using laptops. Maybe they're in an IT suite, checking that the computers are safe, that there's no trailing leads anywhere, checking that there's no exposed wiring, making sure that the equipment is tested, making sure that students know the emergency evacuation procedures. Those kind of things would, as an example, for the Health and Safety Work Act. If you're going to cover something that's specific to you, if you're going, and that would be nice if you have something that's specific to your subject, if there is something, then that would be nice to include in there as well. So again, one of the examples is if you're teaching electrical installations, you need to make sure that you're teaching according to the 19th edition wiring regulations. You know, those regulations are critical to what you're teaching students, that they've got to abide by those regulations. If you're teaching hair and beauty, there's obviously regulations around the safe use of chemicals, how they're disposed of.
Gary, sorry, for some of us who do not teach.
Yeah. I think most people aren't teaching at this moment in time. So it's about how it would impact. Yeah,
you use any subject.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
What about we think we know about it and then we put the wrong things in?
You'll get some feedback from me and you'll get some correction. But if it's about a specific subject, then I probably won't know either. So if it's you know, I think Jemana had put some specific guidelines in there about architecture, then it's just thinking about, I suppose, you know, it's making sure if there's legislation about, say, in hair and beauty, for example, about how you use chemicals with a client, how those chemicals are disposed of, you as a teacher, you know, how does it affect my teaching? How does it affect my work in the classroom? Well, I've got to make sure that I follow the guidelines for the safe use of those chemicals and the distribution, make sure that students understand that, and that I'm teaching those guidelines to the students. That would be the impact that it has on my classroom teaching. Perhaps we've got a few minutes. Let's why don't we? Is that my last slide? Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay, let's oh, I've got this is my lost collaboration board. Look, I knew I'd set it up. Anyway, we won't do that now. What we'll do is we'll pause the recording at that point. Actually, we could stop the recording there. I don't think we need